Hi again then guys, and welcome to another Forza Horizon 3 speed build, this time for another Porsche which you could win recently from the Forza-thon, the 944 Turbo. Not quite as quick as some of the others, but you wouldn't necessarily expect it to be. It doesn't have the massive 1000+ horsepower engine conversions, but it's definitely not slow either. Now, as far as conversions go, I would recommend having the 3.2 litre straight 6 conversion. You can get 760 horsepower out of that, which is quite a bit for a vehicle like this, especially if it's age. As far as the drivetrain, I would recommend all-wheel drive. Then, of course, for the aspiration, you want the twin turbo. As far as the rest, of course you've got options, visually speaking. I have actually opted to fit the rear wing on this one, mainly because I like the way it looks. It's basically the same design of the ducktail, but it makes it larger. You don't have to do that, and of course I usually say don't do that because it restricts top end speed, but on this occasion I fitted it and then set the downforce as low as possible. So if you don't want to fit it, that's perfectly fine. Technically speaking, there's no real reason to fit it, I just like the look. As far as the rest, you know the drill. Lower the weight, increase the power, basically fit everything to the car that has race in the title. Stuff like roll cage and wings are optional, of course, but apart from that, as far as the benchmark goes, as I said, it's not quite as quick as some other Porsches, but slow it is not. 2.4 to 60, 5.1 technically to 100, and 236 flat out. That's pretty good, especially considering it has a lot less power than many of the other Porsches that we've built. As far as the gearbox, the settings will be fairly familiar to those who have used my tunes before. Just a minor change compared to stock. A final drive of 3.3, then 2.9, 2, 1.5, 1.18, 0.95 and 0.77. As far as alignment, we've got neutral, camber and tow, unless of course you want to give it some. 4 degrees of caster. Anti-roll we've got on 30 and 21. Springs on 143 and 170. I've opted for the lowest ride height, and for dampers we've got those on 13, 14 and 6. Aero, as I said, if you do, like me, fit the rear wing, I would recommend having that as low as possible, or you could just not fit it at all, which is technically the easier way of doing it. As far as the diff, we've got 100% on acceleration, 0 on decel, and a 70% split in favour of the back end. And one of the reasons why I've gone for 70%, and why I often do for older vehicles like this one, is that having that 30% going to the front keeps it under a little bit more control than, say, a 25% front bias, because having 25% to the front is good, but 30, at least for my driving style, is kind of a sweet spot. It gives you enough of that all-wheel drive advantage, but without being overly heavy. As I said, at least for me. Now, incidentally, this is not on my storefront, this tune, so don't bother looking for it. Most of my fastest ones are, so you can use the keywords in the description to find them, but this one in particular is a YouTube exclusive. You can't find it on the storefront, because I reached the limit of tunes that I can upload on the storefront, and so I have to limit the ones that I put up there now and just make it the fastest ones. So, all that remains, of course, is to actually take it out on the street to see if it can hit that speed. Now, as I mentioned in the intro of this video, the 944 Turbo is not one of the most popular Porsches on Forza games. It tends to be one of the, not necessarily overlooked, but certainly one of the lesser used models, and the performance mirrors that. It's not one of the quickest Porsches you can get, and in terms of usability, there are definitely better options out there. As far as classics, for instance, as far as class-wise, it's a very high class given its performance. It's not a bad car by any means, but it's more of a car for people who are specifically fans of it, as with some other vehicles that we've done before. Overall, it does have a bit of trouble reaching that top-end speed of 236, at least that's quoted by the benchmark. You could take up the final drive a little bit if you want to see if you can improve it, but overall, it's more comfortable getting up around 230, and then that last few miles per hour, you really have to have perfect circumstances for. A little bit of draft, low traffic or no traffic, and ideally a really long straight or even a downhill section, so you have to get it in pretty sweet circumstances to actually hit that. So generally speaking, you're looking at around 230. Overall though, if you decide to use this build, I hope you have fun with it, of course, and there are plenty more to check out on the channel. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.